We have the Honourable Minister who is connected, then we switch to having him. Right about now, we'll be having an interactive session, Strategic Autonomy, and this will be led by Associate Professor Babatunde Achievers University. A round of applause for him as he comes forward.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, please permit me to rely on the protocol already established by the Vice Chancellor. I had thought that my job here today will be very simple. My job here is to incite a general discussion around the idea of how technology development and industrialization can be leveraged for Nigeria's strategic autonomy in practice. There has been a lot of conceptualization of strategic autonomy. In a book, Strategic Autonomy, in a book recently presented to the public titled Strategic Autonomy is as Definianda. The book was presented to the public in Lagos a couple of weeks ago, and there were issues that arose from that presentation. A major issue that arose is the issue of how do we have strategic autonomy in terms of practice to achieve strategic autonomy. And I am here to provoke us into critical thinking and engage in general discussion as to how this can be done. It is to be noted that the world is of industrial revolutions. Inventions in the first industrial revolution include however, as we speak today, most of our indigenous textile industries are in a state of comatose. And we are beginning to get bored. Therefore, we must begin to think more creatively about our own development, about Nigeria's future. The world moved on onto the second industrial revolution without waiting for Nigeria to catch up. As well as combustion has become moribund. Nobody is sure if there is going to be any light at the end of the tunnel. At some point, we were told that there were many cases to resolve in court. At another time, we were told that the cases have been resolved. Then afterwards, we have total silence. We are hoping that this issue will come up while the Honourable Minister is on, and we'll discuss it together. Yet, furthermore, no solution seems to be in sight. We thank the government for successes recorded in telecoms, the rail system, and the oil sectors. But Nigeria is still almost totally dependent on foreign technology in these sectors, which makes us very vulnerable. The third industrial revolution came while Nigeria was still struggling to adopt the technologies of the second era. And it featured advancements in digital technologies, industrial automation, and the rise of the internet. Unfortunately, the control and the governance of the internet as Russia, China, this also makes Nigeria vulnerable in the event of cyber warfare in the foreseeable future. Finally, the Internet of Things, IoT, and robotic system. It is particularly disturbing when we are told that Nigeria is not ready for electronic voting in its electoral system for the fear of cyber hackers. This makes us electronic voting. How can it be ready for strategic autonomy? Perhaps most importantly, how can Nigeria begin to build indigenous capacity for homegrown technology towards national self-reliance? Let me briefly go down memory lane. In 1967, Chief Obafemi against economic subservience. According to the late sage, quote, "Today, Africa is a continent of competing beggar nations. We vie with one another for favors from our former colonial masters. To invite new colonialists to come to our different territories to preside over our economic fortunes. We may continue, and indeed we will be right to continue, to use the power and influence which sovereignty confers, as well as the tactics and maneuvers which international diplomacy legitimizes, to extract more and more arms from our benefactors. But the inherent evil remains. And it remains with us and with no one else, unless a beggar resolutely shakes off and irrevocably turns his back on his begging habit. He will forever remain a beggar. For the more he begs, the more he develops the beggar characteristics of lack of initiative, lack of courage, lack of drive, and lack of self-reliance. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I must emphasize that this statement was made almost 60 years ago, and Nigeria turned deaf ears to the prophetic warning of the great Awu. I hope and pray that Nigeria will listen to the voices of the duo of Ambassador Yusuf Maitama Tuggar and Professor Bola. Years from now, Nigeria has not fully broken out of the shackles of poor national self-reliance. On this note, Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I want to believe that I have been able to sufficiently provoke you all into critical thinking for this interactive session. Therefore, I thank you all for your attention, and I rest my case.
That was the acting head of department, Electrical and Information Engineering. Who just provoked us to thinking in this direction of technological development and industrialization as building to coordinate the interactive session. The chairman, sir.
Thank you very much. You see, it's even good that we have the experience that we just had. We're expecting Tuggar, Minister, Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs, to address us via a virtual means of interacting with ourselves. Suppose we have developed our Olubong. Suppose we have developed our Olubong sufficiently in a way that we bring one Olubong. But here, this is where we find ourselves. I want to invite, colleagues. And this time around, I would like to, I hope we can get one more microphone. Technical sessions, can we discuss even my introduction that I gave, the introductory remarks that I gave earlier about our language, culture, and development. Now again, about technology development action that we might want to go. Let's hear from ourselves so that we will know whether this institute that we're inaugurating today, we'll be able to give them some specific assignments on what we should be looking up to. So could we have some hands up in terms of contributions, questions, and so we will then invite you here. Another limitation of technology, we have only one Olubong here. So please come and use one bong. Thank you very much. Please, when you come, introduce yourself, and then please raise your comments. Thank you very much. Please, after him, gentle Prof there.
Department of Mass Communication. Truth be told, Africa is not ready to develop because in Yoruba parlance, Yoruba has a proverb that the flood that is coming is not going to spare your house, but it's the house owner that will create the channel for the flood to pass so that it won't destroy his own house. We have lamented over and over that the Europeans came. They came, they saw our resources, they saw our potentials, and therefore, the greatest evil they did to us was to tamper with our language, was to make our own language inferior. They called it vernacular. In some schools in those days, you even pay fine for speaking your own language. And so, as we speak now, in West African coast, they say take a second language. What's that? French, European. After English, European. After 20 years ago, English was their medium of instruction. And all other things were taught to be only a subject. And they made their languages the medium of instruction. We can all know where Japan is today. There's no country that can develop technological-wise using a foreign language. And some people will say that we have many languages. Yes. Are we the only one that have many languages? The educational system in Nigeria, we are not ready to develop. But from nursery 1, KG, it is this foreign language we are imposing on our children. Many of us here, how many of us speak and match them, technology for technology? The chairman was talking about developing our local content. We cannot, because you cannot separate language from culture in Africa. But because we have adopted this foreign thing, so it is now.
Plus, thank you for time. If we are going to make comments, let's make it in 2 minutes. If you want to make questions, please make it in 2 minutes. Please welcome, sir. After you, we welcoming Professor Bola. I would like the students also to make contributions. Okay, Prof, I can see you. I would like students to make contributions, so I'm looking forward to students. If I didn't get you, I'm coming down with the microphone to get 1 or 2 of you to speak. But the point made, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to stand on the well-established, the lecture of my lecturer, the acting HOD, race within the world. And straightforward, what I would like to say about that is, wherever action from leadership, that this is the way we want to go. I give an example, and the mother within the house are not ready to grow. There is little the children can do. In other climes, I want to give a small, straightforward example. When they want to give out, let me mention particularly in India, they gave them a contract to build a train for them. And in that contract, it was written that you will build the first one, the second and third will build in India, we will build in the midst of our engineers who will work with it, study, and will work with you. And all that are stated in the contract, so that by the time the Chinese were put from China, and in about 20 years, they gravitated from building coaches to building the real engine, because there was a systematic introduction of their people into the technology. But here, a lot of times, they will not want any engineers around, because by the time they want to do the contract, there are some paddings they want to put in it. So I would have preferred and be happy if the Honourable Minister was around, so that he can help us take our message to government that there are ways that we can learn and move forward if there is intention in leadership that we want to move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Part of being intentional is that leadership will take the first row, and then we will follow. Thank you very much. Prof.
I respect time. I just want us to note that there's a price that we pay for everything. Look at Iran. Most of the developing countries should be proud of Iran, that Iran is squaring up to the principalities of the world. Now, my question is, if Nigeria develops, or Africa develops, are there not checkpoints of this nature? People who will have uranium and say you cannot acquire uranium. People who will do nuclear and they will say you cannot do nuclear. The self-appointed policemen of the world. Now, are they not stumbling block for technological development? Thank you.
It's okay. Please, there are other senior colleagues who would like to make comments and questions. Okay. Colleagues, Prof, please come. The question that Professor Olayiwola asked, if I send you to the US, sorry sir, just 1 minute. The truth of the matter is that over the years, they have been, and they took everything away. And we are today in their cell. I'm not sure we are ready to get, we are not ready to get out. So we are enjoying it. Let me listen to you, my HOD.
Thank you very much, sir. My own concern is this. I think Engineer Adeshida has partially mentioned. Technology will not develop itself without the intervention of man. And when we talk of man, I'm saying here the issue of leadership. If the question of leadership is not resolved first, technology has its own cultural stamp. If you go to China today, their science is not done in English language. It's done and communicated in Chinese language. Go to Japan. They don't use English language to communicate or to educate the people. They use Japanese language. Go to Germany, the same thing. Go to India. India has a lot of multicultural groups than Nigeria. Yet they are developing. If we look at the Rostow's 5 stages development, from traditional to takeoff, to industrialization, to actual thing, up to the high mass consumption, where does Nigeria belong? Nigeria belongs to primarily stage 1 economy. It's only the urban centers you will see preparation to take off. What I'm saying here is this. If truly we want to develop, we should first of all realize that Yoruba is different from Hausa, Hausa is different from Igbo, Igbo is different from Fulani. Why don't we allow our professional languages, we make them to understand better their environment and their technology. As long as we continue using, instead of marking their ideas, we'll be marking their English language, as if English is my language, like their papa language. We abandon you mark the student down without looking at actually whether the student is trying to communicate with an idea. If the student has the idea, why must we mark him down? I go Lagos, but the communication has been made. The student have made it known that he was in Lagos last year. Until we look at our indigenous language, we continue lacking behind in technological development. So language first, we have to be deliberate. The leadership must be deliberate in developing our indigenous language up to the scientific level, whereby the people can communicate in their mother tongue. Thank you.
Thank you, HOD. This is very good. Although there is a caveat to standardization, you know, so that, because I had the student clapping, you know, when answers are expected, standardized answers are expected. If you write outside of that standard, you'll be marked wrong. When there's an objective scheme to follow, and you did it, my vice chancellor, yes sir, when we were having this conversation, the point the HOD made is that, I'll give an example. A slave boy understand mathematics. A slave boy who has never been to school on the ground, and the slave boy was able to explain intelligence that those who think do not have knowledge, they might not have education, but they have knowledge. There's a distinction between knowledge and there is objectivity. But we can develop our knowledge, not necessarily following foreign standard and objectivity. Thank you very much. So, may I request colleagues to please, and after that, I want us to discuss a question. While we lead us in that discussion, what do we mean by understand? What do we mean by? What's our understanding of strategic autonomy? Strategic autonomy. Maybe this will shape suggestions as to what the institute should be. After him, students, please get this for comments or questions, so that I know that you are not just sitting down there, that you are part of this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I just have a brief comment. I don't want to play to the gallery. I believe that we have overflowed the issue of language. The question I want to ask us is, for many international conferences taking place in Germany, in China, in the English language, which suggests that France, and at postgraduate level, in those countries, China and other countries, Japan, you have your teaching and your learning in the English language. So for me, I don't buy the notion that our problem is that education is not in our indigenous languages. I think it's more deeper than that. Of course, we should teach our children our languages. Because, I mean, if I'm a Yoruba man and I cannot speak Yoruba, then how can I really prove that I'm Yoruba? So our children should actually learn in our indigenous languages. But the world has moved on. The ability to communicate in English is a great advantage, as is shown by so many of our young ones getting jobs in Europe and America and all those places. I want to end up with this. I support strongly, have sold us. How come for what he said, our people are trained. Now the Chinese are coming again and they are worse than the initial colonizers because we have refused to learn. After they've been caged for maybe years, they are used to the cage. When you remove the cover, they open the door. Because their mindset is still there, they are engaged, so they stay in there. I think we need to look beyond just language. We need to look in and also address the issue of corruption. How come there is so much corruption? We don't really want to develop. We are not ready yet until we decide that, hey, China has made it, Singapore has made it, Japan has made it. We also want to make it, I think, and then of course with good intentional leadership, we can get there. Thank you very much.
This is a very wonderful contribution. Thank you very much. Please, do you permit me, Vice Chancellor, to, because I've seen that when I told the students that I was coming to see them, I've seen that people have started leaving. That tells, so those who are seated, that tells me the strength, intellectual strength of those who are seated. So I know I will not be disappointed. So give them a round of applause. I know I'm not going to be disappointed. So I need just two of, I know law students are there. Any volunteers that would like to make one comment, one question? So the second one, the second student should be a female, should be getting ready. Oh, there. All right, here.
Thank you, sir. My name is Eji Alexander Simon from the Department of Public Health, a 100-level student. I have been hearing my professors and doctors talking about. My concern is, I can say that the way we are being colonized, actually we had independence, but the independence is like a statement that has not been come into reality in terms of cultural arrest. Because our fathers use the idea of antiquity and many other things to present medicine, and then they start emphasizing on that mistake, and by that they creep in and started bringing in orthodox medicine and criticize the method that our father used. By that, suddenly, gradually from our syllabus, the use of cultural languages was extracted or removed. That if you check very well, it is not applicable to the things we came in to study. Sometimes you'll be hearing some languages that is very strange to you. Majorly, you are confused. You don't even know where to start from language. This is the reason why I discover that we are struggling, because the leaders we are raising today are confused leaders. If the students are confused, it means that they are going to be a confused leader.
Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir. Sir, my Vice Chancellor, sir. My Vice Chancellor, thank you very much for please sit down, sir. One of your students has delivered the lecture. And I'm happy that it's just a part 1 student. So by the time it gets to part 3, part 4, he will be contesting to be the president.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Akonde Gideon Omogoriola, and I am a 400 level law student. I have a comment and a question. The principle of strategic autonomy is something that has been widely debated, but it can be expressly defined as the strategic planning or careful planning towards having absolute independence within your constituency. So in Nigeria's case, strategic autonomy can be said to be a set or series of plans that lead to a final point or destination where Nigeria has absolute up to. So in relation to this topic, autonomy they want, there is a need for Nigerians to know that the colonization that came, we cannot presently understand because we have been colonized, and this is the product of it. We need to redefine our culture. We need to reestablish our that we have ignored because of colonization. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This is another wonderful and brilliant submission. And then I also appreciate your understanding of strategic autonomy. I believe Professor Auditorium is taking notes. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Salisu Oluwaseyi from Political Science. And I'd like to say that strategic autonomy, it's just like you being the boss in your own game. You are the boss of your own game. You control whatever it is about you. You control ideology, you control economy, you control power, you control security. For there to be this autonomy, there has to be something called ideological washing, because we have to wash whatever ideology that has been given to us. I know that there are lecturers, in fact, I've seen professors that are still imbibing those things that they've gotten from previous people that have taught them. And they tend to leave the fact that, let me think myself, let me have a philosophical idea, let me have a philosophical view, and think deeply about this thing. You don't just pass things. When things have been passed to this like this, they'll be like, don't stress me, don't ask me anything, that is how it is, that is the structure. While we are not being allowed to think independently. When we don't think independently, we tend to depend on whatever is being dished out to us. Now, if students are being given the opportunity to tell you to talk, what is your thought on this topic? What is your thought on this concept? If you are being given this opportunity to give your thoughts on this concept, if they say fight as a male, does that make you an actual male? Like that. So my question, basically, students think independently without having to. So with this, we will say that even we will question the foreign affairs, we will question anything about us. Thank you.
In fact, and you can see small engine, a small body, big engine. Give him a round of applause again. Okay. Please, lady, come. And then we take one more. And then, okay, you. You want to speak?
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Observing all existing protocols, my name is Esther, and I'm a 400 level political science student. So first, I'd like to acknowledge everybody and the topic that has been in discussion, which is strategic autonomy. And I must say that our staffs and our students have done a lot, and they've done significantly well in this topic. But my question particularly is this country. Strategic autonomy, like he said, is the ability of a state or a nation to make decisions by ourselves, for ourselves, without interference and intervention. Political students will know what the difference between interference and intervention. However, the problem is making decisions politically, economically, military leaders, and not ideologically based. Our political parties are not particularly based on ideologies and political philosophies. Instead, they're based on fame and support from the people and all of these things. It's based on incompetence instead of the actual thing. For example, countries like the United States, their political parties are bringing up leaders and all of that. Now, parties are not producing leaders that are politically or ideologically driven. How do we make sure, or how do we have efficient autonomy in the aspects of our economy, our technology, our politics, and even our military strength? Thank you very much.
Okay, the lady.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. Standing on the existing protocol, my name is Onetufo Ayomikun, the chairman, from what the chairman of the inaugural lecture said, and from what the vice chancellor also said. So I define strategic autonomy to be the ability to cooperate globally without surrendering the strengths of its nation. So now, my question is Nigeria practically, and without affecting the survival, the stability of we, the dwellers in it? And how are they going to achieve this without isolating us, where we have...
This is a very wonderful university. Maybe I will need to relocate here. The 100-level students even gave me challenges that the point that I got from them, I doubt whether I will be able to read from any textbook. Please, let's give our students another round of applause. Sincerely appreciate them. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, please, before we get maybe one or two more, and then we will be rounding up. Hello, sir. You didn't mention your name when you spoke. Professor Frank, like this gathering, that we shift into Yoruba, into indigenous language, or we shift by speaking Hausa language or any indigenous language. No. There is a difference between language of communication. One of my students said something clearly, especially the first guy who spoke. He talked about intellectual arrest. Intellectual arrest. Sir, Prof, go out there, ask a PhD person, someone who has a PhD, what is the difference language? It's not ABC, it's not RBD. We are talking about language in all. And many of these students who have spoken today, ask them to define, to explain, which I used to do, the meaning of their surname. I don't know whether you get my point, sir. Ask a student in your class who is bearing Akinterinwa to explain the meaning of Akinterinwa. What they will tell you, I don't know. Not to talk of ask a student. I left them, otherwise I would have used one as an experiment. To ask, where are you from? King of Ilesha. We are Sauriki or by Ilesha. So that is all that is encompassing about language. We are not talking about learning literally, sir. Everywhere we go, you look at Fela. Fela was using European instruments to propagate African identity. Horns to popularize Afro music. That is what we are saying. Sir, there is a sense in which if you are in medical science, when we talk about skin diseases, there are some skin diseases that you can only understand if you call them the Yoruba name that they bear. A student that didn't understand the difference between Akokoro and Yoro, you can only use one English language to cover it all. Elders, let us learn from these our students. They've told us strategic autonomy is moving away from intellectual arrest. They've told us that strategic autonomy is power to be able to develop on your own pace. That's the thing that came from that law student. Indigenous principles. Indigenous principles. And finally, from that young, we have to be the box in our own game. And that's why I want to congratulate Ashivas University once again for having this interactive session. And as you can see, it's producing effects immediately. We need to teach our students philosophy. We need to strengthen critical thinking. We need to introduce logic into our students such that they will be able to think on their own and think out of the box. This is the way to develop. If you follow, my dear Prof said, the door will be open, but we will not go out. So I would like to say this, that this our interactive session has been productive. So please let's give a round of applause to everyone. And so while I invite Professor Akinteriwa to please take over. Thank you very much, Prof.
The chair has asked me to address the notion of strategic autonomy. My colleagues at the 100 level of their education have raised a number of questions as well. What I will say basically is that the book that was presented to the public on March 12 at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs means for Nigeria's foreign policy ground 40 chapters. Pagination is about 1,300 pages. So, it is not this here. it is very technical. However, the meaning of strategic autonomy union, they were the very first to articulate and give a specific meaning to that. So all the definitions you are giving here, talking about capacity building, about being free, all right, maintain your sovereignty, and try to influence. You see, strategic autonomy in the context of Nigeria is basically synonymous with self-reliance. Self-reliance. Yusuf, Maitama, Tuggar suggested that even though we have had the notion, the understanding of what strategic autonomy, because it is being made a foreign policy objective, discussion on whether Nigeria has foreign policy objective or not. Ambassador Tuggar has come up with the idea that Nigeria needs to be self-reliant. When Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, many international observers not taking side with the West or the East, non-alignment. But non-alignment, as explained by Prime Minister, Nigeria will be determined by national interest. So many scholars had written accusing Nigeria, the government of Tafawa Balewa, saying, look, you have non-alignment policy. Why are you giving support to the Soviet era? When the war broke out, Nigeria wanted military arms. They didn't supply. Yakubu Gowon turned to Soviet Union. By the time the Soviet Union were just coming in, America came to its senses, the British came to their senses, and they quickly changed. That is the meaning of non-alignment there. In a nutshell, what is stated perfectly? We have, ultimate strategy. Ultimate strategy is your final objective. That is a strategy par excellence. But all the measures you are going to take in achieving that ultimate objective is called tactical subjective. That is why tactical foreign policy must not be confused with strategic policy. Strategic foreign policy is the ultimate objective. Tactical foreign policy let me inform you that the Institute of Diplomatic Practice, Culture, and Language Development, with certificate and diploma programs in diplomatic practice. In practice. And no one is doing that one here in Nigeria. And I can tell you, not here in Africa. There are very few institutions doing that one. It's different from diplomatic studies. Diplomacy is the art of beautifully telling lies and you accepting the lies as truth. That is diplomacy. Diplomacy, we want to tell you, achievers want to produce diplomats that can easily understand the language. So, in a nutshell, please, we have Director Professor Temikotan of the directorate is in charge of all these programs. It is in your own interest, and you don't have the manual, the etiquette, you wouldn't have had anything. In conclusion, on language, please, indigenous language, when we are able to write our nursing, it will be well with us. The United Nations, if you graduate from Ashivas University and you don't speak the official languages or the languages, 4, you can speak to it, you can present your documents, you can do whatever. That is Arabic, Spanish, Chinese, and Russian. But whatever you say, as we are giving lectures here, they must be documented in the official languages of the United Nations. And those are French language and English language. Very respectfully.
Can we put our hands together for the Director, Institute of Diplomatic Practice, Culture and Language Development. If I did not stand up, Professor Akintenewa will be here in the next 2 hours. So, in a way, he has given, I think the first thing is to listen to the Ambassador Tuggar. Unfortunately, we could not get him, but you will get to know this probably after now. Then, other than this, our chairman has really engaged us. Prof, I want to thank you so much. That's something novel about academics. So thank you so much. And as much as possible, I'm told that the ambassador is back. Maybe we just give him a few minutes to just address us. Your Excellency, Sir, Ambassador Tuggar, good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay, my profound apologies. I was part of the meeting, and then I got called into a meeting with the Vice President, so I just stepped out. And I was very intrigued by, in fact, the first speaker is the paper he delivered on language and talked about culture, because it reminded me of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, which says that, and equally, Professor Autonomy is part of the evolving draw nations into crises beyond leading effects of current geopolitical rivalries. Can you still hear me? Hello?
We can hear you, sir.
Okay. My profound apologies. I'm sure, I believe you can hear me now.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
So it's interrupting. So let me, I don't know how far you heard, but I was talking about conflicts in the regions such as the Middle East demonstrate how over-alignment can draw nations into crises beyond their control. The cascading effects of current geopolitical rivalries show that countries which trade agency for security guarantees may find themselves exposed and entangled in conflicts they neither initiated nor can easily disengage from. They are, in the most literal sense, victims of over-alignment. The costs are not only infrastructural, but also human lives lost and economic potential destroyed, tourism revenues evaporated, sovereignty eroded, and mutual suspicion entrenched between neighbors who share no quarrel of their own making. Before these crises metastasized, Russia and Ukraine were conducting a shadow conflict in West Africa where the major powers were quietly competing for access to Africa's critical minerals. These great power contestations do not respect African borders, and the winners and losers in those contests will reshape trade routes, investment flows, security architectures, and the political space available to African governments for a generation. Nigeria and Africa have challenges enough of their own. We cannot afford to become collateral damage in competitions we did not design and whose outcomes we cannot control unless we act deliberately to protect our agency. Let me be unambiguous about one thing. Strategic Nigeria's foreign policy has always been guided by moral precepts and ethical considerations. Our record of peacekeeping, democratic defense in the region, and principled multilateralism speaks for itself. What it insists on is that those moral commitments serve Nigerian interests and African priorities, not that we subordinate our values to another power's calculations disguised in the language of Tinubu. Nigeria's foreign policy has been structured around the 4Ds, as you're aware. Doctrine, which is democracy, development, demography, and diaspora. Forgive me. So, where was I? Democracy strengthens Nigeria's legitimacy and credibility as Africa's largest democratic transformation, attracting investment, expanding trade, and supporting growth. Demography recognizes Nigeria's youthful population as a strategic asset in a global economy increasingly driven by human capital. Diaspora acknowledges Nigeria through remittances, investment, and influence. Together, these pillars provide coherence to Nigeria's diplomacy. In this evolving global landscape, Africa's historical position must clearly be understood. For decades, the continent's role in the global economy was defined by extraction, what I often describe as dig it up, so as I was saying, within this evolving global landscape, Africa's historical position must be clearly understood. For decades, the continent's role in the global economy was defined by extraction, what I often describe as dig it up, sell it on, and buy it back. This model has limited Africa's ability to capture value and shape its economic destiny. Nigeria's current size and scale, together with its projected population of over 400 million before 2050, place a conscious demand on Nigeria's statecraft and diplomacy. Both must work together to ensure an economy vibrant enough to sustain that weight. This is why, under this administration, Nigeria's strategic autonomy is grounded in economic diplomacy. Nigeria, like many African countries, is now keen on partnerships that deliver value addition, local processing, and industrialization, ensuring that our resources generate prosperity within our borders before entering global markets. Within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we've taken deliberate steps to strengthen Nigeria's capacity to act with foresight and influence. And the steps are the establishment of an artificial intelligence unit, information integrity. 2, the creation of the Regional Partnership for Democracy to strengthen governance, counter disinformation, and promote democratic resilience across the region. 3, the convening of the West Africa Economic Summit to deepen regional economic coordination and unlock trade and investment opportunities. These initiatives reflect Nigeria's convening power and our ability not only to participate in global conversations, but to shape them. Indeed, strategic autonomy requires active and sustained engagement. Since assuming office, I've had the privilege of representing Nigeria extensively across the world, countries across 5 continents, and traveling over 326,000 miles. These bilateral position Nigeria within emerging global networks. Because we listen, now we are heard. Nigeria's approach to global engagement is deliberate. We maintain strong relationships with traditional partners while expanding engagement with emerging platforms, including BRICS, the G20, and South-South cooperation frameworks. Ladies and gentlemen, strategic autonomy is the responsibility of more than just government alone. It requires intellectual rigor from academia, innovation from the private sector, engagement from the diaspora, and discipline in policy execution. For institutions such as the Institute of Thinkers, diplomats, and leaders who understand not only the mechanics of foreign policy, but the philosophy of agency behind remains constant. We will engage widely. We will partner strategically. We will cooperate globally. But above the world, the greatest asset a nation can possess is not just its resources or its alliances, it is the ability to choose. I thank you very much, and now I'm going to go upstairs and submit my letter of resignation to the Secretary of the Government of the Federation as instructed by Mr. President, for those of us that want to step down from our positions in government to contest elections. Thank you very much. I hope and pray that you heard everything I said.
Please, can we give another round of applause to the ambassador, a former minister, just as he announced that he had just stepped down, and we want to congratulate him for the wonderful works he did while in office. I would also want to congratulate him for the successes that he has recorded. We are praying that God will be with him in his future, and we will be engaged, and then we will take up the discussion from there. So we want to round up by thanking him once more, and then let's thank the Vice Chancellor and other principal officers of the university who are here. Vice beautiful thing I'm taking away from Ashivas University, that principal officer will sit to listen and attend intellectual lecture like this. Is something commendable. And I also want to thank our colleagues who are sitting opposite us here. They are professors, they are colleagues. We want to thank you for being part of this event. We appreciate your contributions and your insights into all our students who stayed all through. Very rare that you hear them, see them like this. Let's appreciate our technical crew, who I also believe are students of Ashivas University, Abi. So the technical crew, we want to thank you. So I think we will take the national anthem. We want to have a presentation for the Vice Chancellor, the Pro Chancellor. Okay. So the Pro Chancellor and Professor Akim Teniwa will.
Of the Pro Chancellor of the University, Professor Bode Ayonide, I present this flag to the Honourable Minister through the Director of Institute of Diplomatic Practice, Culture and Language, in appreciation of the inauguration lecture presented today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Well, I will convey the message and the gift given by the Pro-Chancellor of Ashivas University, Professor Bode Ayonide, especially that today is a major day for the Honourable Minister. He has just resigned, and he told us he's going to submit his letter of resignation to the Secretary of the Government of the Federal event for his tenure as Minister of Foreign Affairs. And as he said, for institutions such as the Institute of Diplomatic Practice, Culture and Language Development, the task before you is to produce thinkers, diplomats, and leaders who understand not only the mechanics of foreign policies, but the philosophy of agency behind it. Since we are not politicians, we will have said and we mandate to stand. But I am not standing on any political mandate. But on this statement that our institute should produce diplomats, thinkers, and leaders. Leadership is our watchword here, and in this case, Honourable Minister, sir, we count on your support, and as you are resigning to go and contest, may God be with you and you will win. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The chairman, sir, with your permission, we have come to the end of this event, and I will call for the closing prayer, which will be done by Dr. Olatunji Olateju, Acting HOD, Political Science. Closing prayer before we take the national anthem, then the university anthem first, then the national anthem.
Mr. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We thank Almighty Allah for the successful test. We pray to God to continue giving the wisdom to navigate the vicissitudes of life and all its high desires to come into fruition. We thank God for our Pro-Chancellor, Professor Bode Ayorinde. We pray to God to continue protecting his life, the life of members of his family, and the life of everybody in Ashivas University. May his wallet never dry. We thank God go and live. And then our acting VC, Professor Adesoji Aremu, may God continue being there with wisdom for everybody, all members of Ashivas community. May we never regret for coming or joining to Ashivas. May Akitiba continue to be an abode of progress and prosperity for all of us. All this I pray in the mighty name of Allah. Subhana Rabbika, Rabbin Zati wa Mayasivun, wa salamu wa ala musalina, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alamin. Sallu ala Nabri Karim, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, wa la quwata illa billahi al-azim. Thank you.
Shall we rise for the university anthem, followed by the national anthem? Members of the high table. After this session, members of after this photograph session, management and staff, faculty and staff will join.